Morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. We've obviously had some news this week, which Don will talk about, but I want to take this opportunity while everybody's here, too, to remind you of some upcoming dates in the NHL calendar and team calendar as well for some things that are going on. So next Thursday, the 27th, is NHL Awards. It's going to be on ESPN, 7 Eastern time. On the 28th is the NHL Draft first round. That also starts at 7 Eastern. We'll have our annual draft party at Pins again. We've got a fourth overall pick, and the second day of the draft, rounds 2 through 7, will be the 29th, starting at 11:30 a.m. Now, we have 7 overall picks. Our second round pick, we have the option. We can either keep it or send it to Philadelphia as part of the Provorov trade. So we make that call after the first round. So that's kind of where we are prepping for the draft. Right after that, we come back Monday, the first free agency starts. We also have development camp starting that day, but the first day on ice for development camp will be the 2nd, and that'll go through the 5th. So, and then we expect, hopefully the end of July, probably start to have some pre-sale opportunities for Stadium Series, and we should know by then actual on sale for that. So obviously this week's news, Don will take your questions there, but this is also a great opportunity to talk about some other things as he heads to Vegas next week. So, yes, Mr. Portzline, welcome back.
Okay. Is development camp here?
Yeah, it'll be in the Ice House.
Okay.
Yeah, so with that, bring Don up. Take your questions. If you have one, please raise your hand, and we'll get you a mic.
Thanks, Todd. Welcome, everybody. Have at it.
We haven't been able to do this.
Don, when you, I'm not sure how far along you are in your talks with Line and a trade that has been discussed. Are you of the assumption that you'll be taking money back on that, or how tricky do you think that deal is going to be?
Well, it's too early. Obviously, we're still working with his agent, Andy Scott. He's still in the program. And once he gets out, then which we expect any day or sometime soon, then because teams that I've talked about, they want to talk with him if they're going to make a move. So, it's too early to say about money. Our hope is that that we wouldn't have to hold money. We want to make a hockey trade if we can, and we'll certainly exhaust every opportunity and every team that potentially has interest in it.
Have you given Andy Scott permission to make the trade, or are you handling all of that?
Well, we've given Andy permission to talk about the player, his condition, and everything else, but no, he's not making the trade.
Don, can you share a little bit how the process played out these last few weeks and the decision to make the change at head coach?
Yeah, as I said the first day I was here, that Pascal's the coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I'd never met Pascal, and so I wanted to make sure I did my due diligence as the general manager to make sure that we made the right decision about moving forward. So, it took a couple weeks, obviously, met with them multiple times, and, at the end of the day, it was my decision that we just felt that we need to go in a different direction. And I've said pretty publicly that, we've been through some younger coaches for different reasons, and I think right now we need to look at an experienced coach to come in here.
Do you have a couple names in mind already, or are you going in this blank slate, just interviews are going to be what decides it?
Yeah, no, I have. So this will be the process, just so we know. We're the only team in the NHL looking for a head coach. The guys that are available today are going to be available tomorrow. So a group of us are talking to general managers, players. My list is 12 people actually right now. We're not going to interview 12 people. We're going to do our due diligence very thoroughly, and once we get to a point that we're all comfortable of interviewing, then we'll start interviewing, whether that be 3 or 4 people at the end. But right now, we got a little window here to make sure we get this right. And the best way to get it right is make sure we unturn every rock that we possibly can about anybody that's available that we want to coach this team.
Don, how many of the current Blue Jackets players have you had a chance to speak to, and then how much of an impact does their input have on like the Vincent decision and some other decisions that might be coming up?
Players don't have any say in who's coaching this hockey team. I just think that, if you go back in history, there's players that like coaches, don't like coaches. So, when I did have talked about probably 15 players so far, and it's more about how they felt their season went, and how their summer's going, what we have to look forward to for next year. So, I always say that managers manage, coaches coach, players play, and that's what we want to make sure the focus for the players is right now, training for the upcoming season to be best prepared as possible.
Hey, Don. Going back to Line A really quick, is it a mutual thing where the team and the player and the agent all kind of feel like a trade might be the best option, or is there a chance that, would you like to talk to him as well about potentially staying?
Yeah, no, I think right now we're all playing nice in the sandbox, and until we get to a point where decision have to be made, maybe there's not something out there that makes sense for us, and then we have to cross that bridge, So right now, they've expressed their view, and we said that we will certainly look at all our options. And spoke to Andy again yesterday about this. But you can't rule out if the options are limited or there's no options that make any sense, then that we'll have to deal with that.
You're looking for a veteran coach. In the event that Joel Quenneville is cleared by the NHL to return, would he be considered?
Yeah, I'm not going to, probably not my best interest to talk about what might happen. Obviously we all know that Joel is still held back by the league. I think I'll leave it to the league to maybe eventually answer that question.
Don, what's your definition of experience in terms of coach? Coach that has 5 years as a head coach in AHL and maybe a couple in the NHL as opposed to a 10-year NHL. Does he have to have NHL head coaching experience?
That's a great question. I believe they do at this point. There's a lot of good coaches out there at every level, including the ex-guys that have coaching NHL. And I just think, talking with everybody here and kind of getting my finger on the pulse the last 3 weeks, that we need somebody that's been in this chair before that has coached in the NHL. So, and we'll have some good choices there.
Want to ask a little bit more of a general question. You came in here about 3 weeks ago and probably had a mile-long to-do list as far as meeting people, making decisions, things like that. Just want to get a sense of what these first 3 weeks have been like. How much progress do you think you've made, and do you feel comfortable where you're at going into what's now a pretty big portion of the calendar with the draft and free agency?
My list is probably longer now, but it's been a great 3 weeks. First of all, we got, I didn't know everybody here, but everybody I've got to know. There's really good people here, and when you have good people that have the same common goal, you can find a way to have success together. So I've spent a lot of time, obviously, with the hockey operations people. Not everybody yet, because I haven't had a chance, but we had pro scouting last week. We had amateur scouting the week before. So, as I said 3 weeks ago, we know we have some things we have to focus on. The draft. I talked about the coaching initially, the draft, and then we have free agency. So, this preparation for the draft is critical for this franchise. The fourth pick overall is an important pick, and we have to make sure we get it right. So there's a lot of focus on that right now, and we'll do a lot of more interviews next week in Vegas with the top players. But I think everything's moving along. I'm happy with the progress we've made, and you can't do this, like I said, you can't do this job alone, and you need to surround yourself with good people, and that's what we've done here.
You had said that you thought things here were closer than probably most do. Does that make your approach to this offseason more aggressive?
That's interesting, because aggressive is probably not how I look at it. we have a lot of good pieces here. Do we like to upgrade at certain spots? Absolutely, 100%. But if you get too aggressive, the whole thing about if you're going to do things is make sure that's the right pieces going out. If you're making trades, we all know you have to give something up to make a trade to get another player. So I don't know if it's as aggressive as you might be at a trade deadline or something like that. I think it's more making sure that whatever we're doing, that we feel like we're getting fair value from a trade front, and same with free agency. Free agency is going to be interesting this year because a lot of teams have a lot of cap space because of the cap going up, and all that means is salaries could get more inflated. So we'll pay attention to that, but I can't say that we need to be real aggressive. I think anytime you're trying to build your hockey team and add to your team, you just got to make sure you have the right process in place. And if you have the right process and surround yourself with the right people, those decisions come easier.
Don, you already made a decision on Pascal. I'm just wondering, how have the interactions with the other staff been, and will the process be any different in how you may evaluate them?
When you say the other staff, the assistant coaches?
Assistant coaches, assistant general managers, etc.
Yeah, no, I've told everybody right now, the assistant coaches, no decisions be made on them until we hire a head coach, and then we'll go from there. I've met with the assistant coaches, the ones here in town. Mark's not here in town, and we all know when coaches are hired, head coaches, a lot of times they have somebody they want to bring with them. We'll see. We don't know if that's going to happen or not, but the guys that I've talked to here, you got a good support staff here. Again, it's going to be the head coach is going to have some major say in who his assistants are, of course.
Well, you answered that question. In terms of the pitch to the coaches, what do you tell them about Columbus and this team, that the selling points to get them here?
I don't think I don't think you have to sell coaches for this reason. It's the same thing I said at the opening press conference. There's a lot of good pieces here, and if you're a coach, they know the roster. They all of them coached last year probably that we're talking to, or for the most part. They know what we have here. So the selling part is, I think if they do their homework, they're going to sell themselves. Things we can talk about is, a lot of them haven't been in our facilities, and I mentioned it before. The facilities here are first class and maybe the best in the league. I've been here this over 3 weeks, and it's a good city. It's a really good city. Found my way around pretty good around here. So that's more the family, maybe life would be the selling point. I think the hockey will sell itself.
The fourth overall pick, have you received a lot of interest, from your fellow GMs in maybe obtaining that? And since you've been here, you've had a chance to meet with the amateur scouting staff and all that. Is the feeling that if there was the right deal out there, that you could still get, a player that you'd really be excited about if you moved back?
Yeah, there's been some talk. I know next week is really where it really picks up, but it's an interesting draft this year because if you just look at the experts out there, which is you guys, the media, they talk about Sabrini being one, and then after that 2 through 7 or 8. There's different lists that you look at. They're all different. So there's been some teams. Even around us are talking about trying to move back a little bit if you're going to get a nice asset with it. So there's chatter going on, but I expect that to really pick up next week. And again, we're open. If we keep the pick, we're going to get a great player, and if we trade the pick, it's going to have to be a great deal for us.
I know you said the candidates will still be the candidates tomorrow, but do you have a timeline for wanting to get a coach in place?
Well, not exactly, because with the draft next week, I'm hoping to use the next 3 or 4 days to, with my staff, to really dig into this group of available coaches. And if everything goes well, then hopefully in the next week or so around the draft, we will be able to meet with people and keep the process going forward.
Don, how do you view free agency this year? It hasn't been a major event here for the last couple of years with all of the young players coming in. Do you look at it and think maybe you can fill a void this year, or how do you view it?
You know, we just had pro meetings last week. You know, I don't think there's any game changers, if that's what we're looking for. There's maybe some spots that we want to address. You know, the bottom 6 forwards maybe and a defenseman. So I don't look at it being that you know, we're going to get a major game changer on during free agency. But you know, I think there's some things we'd like to add for sure.
Don, just wondering about the end of the monster season, the great season that they had down there. How much were you able to get to watch that, and how important will they be moving forward from a development standpoint?
Whenever you get to play as many games, they lose in conference finals in Game 7 after being down 3-0 and lost all 4 games in overtime, which is a remarkable run. You know, I did get to Cleveland, did not make it to Hershey, but watched all the games on TV. I think development is critical for the long-term success. We talked before about having the opportunity that we want to be able to sustain success, and you're going to do that by having a good farm system. You know, drafting well, developing your players, getting them in the farm system, because we all know you can't continue to build your team through free agency. You can't build your team. Eventually, you got to turn some players because salaries get out of whack. So you always have to have a pipeline of players coming. So the American League is, you know, it's a great league, and being able to play like we did this year, as many playoff games, is a great experience. I've used different examples through my career where, you know, players, we won 1 year when I was in Carolina and Charlotte, and our guys got to play 27 playoff games. You know, it's more than a quarter of the season, and I don't care what level you're playing at. You're playing the playoffs. It's hard hockey. So, to me, this is you'd like to win, but it was a great run for him.
Porty asked about free agency, so I'll ask just about your thoughts on the draft. I think every GM has to have a pretty good amount of trust in the amateur scouts and guys like Ville that you're now working with. Just what's the process been like getting to know them, and just in general, I mean, how much input do you generally as a GM want to have on a draft? Probably just the top end of it, probably.
Yeah, it's this is what these guys do all year. Ville and his staff and Trevor, the entire amateur staff. You know, you get into the draft. It's hard. It's hard, and they've done a good job here. That's what you look at the players they've selected. When you're talking about a top pick, I think it's important for me to make sure that I know all those players because, you know, like I've said, when you have the 4th pick in the draft, you got to hit it right, and it's going to be a big decision for all of us to make. But that's why we'll even interview all these guys again. We've already interviewed them once. I have not. I wasn't in at the combine, so we'll make sure we interview all those top guys again the week of the draft. So just and that's not going to change a whole lot. You know, I did have one player one time, a top player. Who said to me he didn't like hockey, but he was looking forward to buying a new car, something like that. And he never played a game in the NHL either, by the way. He was drafted in the 1st round, not by me. So I think it's, I think that pick is important for all of us to do as much homework as we can on it so that we get it right.
Just curious, there's that event going down in Florida, I believe, with the Gold Star. Did you guys send anyone down there, or do you have anyone there kind of watching those prospects? I think those guys were not either. A lot of them weren't at the combine.
Yeah, no, that's most of the Russians down there. Yes, to answer your question, I believe we have at least 3 people down there, and they got some top guys, obviously, that, you know, being this year over in Russia was our North American or even our European scouts, unless they live in Russia, didn't have that opportunity to watch them live. So it was important. Dan Milstein does a good job with his guys down there. So, yes, to answer your question, we do have people down there.
I'll go a little bit further down the road, but Todd mentioned the Stadium Series again coming up, and your first press conference, you mentioned how that was one of the more memorable events of your career. Just what made it kind of stand out in that way? And I imagine being on the business side too, you had a lot to do with it. What was like putting together an event like that as well?
Well, I know Catherine's here. She's got a lot of work to do in front of her. You know, I just can't say enough. I mean, we had the perfect. It was 40 degrees. Playing in another football stadium, and to me, these are once in a lifetime experiences with your home team. Yeah, if you want to go and see them someplace else, but with your home team. So, you know, I believe we call it the horseshoe. I'm learning. I could never mention that M word again. People say, where are you from? I'm from Detroit, United States. So, but you know, this kind of experience, I can't say it. You know, there's the NHL along with the Blue Jackets are going to do such a great job of from everything. The game is important because it counts in the standings, but the entertainment and what surrounds the event is also it's a great experience. I think we have over 120,000 deposits on tickets right now, and so it's. I promise you, you'll enjoy it.
Of all the things that you have to squeeze into what you're doing, there's some figuring out contracts, a lot of RFAs. Have you had time to do that, or is that going to be more of a priority after all, like the draft and the start of free agency?
No, we're starting those conversations. Josh and I had a conversation with the agent today that represents a couple players. So, no, you because I've said before, there's not a rush on some of these players, but the ones that have our rights, if at least we want to get out in front of it to find out what the player and the agent are thinking. So we have started those conversations.
We've got a couple here on Zoom, so we'll start with Guillaume Lefrancois. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Todd. Hello, Don. One of the names that surfaced the last few days is Bob Hartley. I know you cannot discuss coaches who have contracts elsewhere. Bob is free as a bird. He says he's enjoying life playing pickleball. I just wanted to know if he is one of the guys on your list, given how far back you guys go back.
Yeah, Bob, because you say he doesn't have a contract. He has reached out to me. I have not spoken to him yet, and you know, this is all part of our due diligence with you know. Eventually, I got to make a decision, but there's going to be a lot of people in that process making a decision. So, as well as I know Bob, some of my other people that will be involved don't know Bob. So, we'll see. We're not going to. I'm not going to say who we're going to interview yet for sure. We'll know that in the next little bit. But Bob's name certainly has come up, and as everybody knows, he coached for me, I think, for 5 years in Atlanta. So,
would you consider him for other positions than head coach as well, if you decide to go another way for the main job?
I haven't even thought 1 second about that, so that'd be a tough answer to give you right now.
Okay, and just the last one for me, but in the interview that you gave to Brian, you mentioned that you couldn't get past some things in your process with Pascal, with some of the stuff that had happened. This can mean a lot of things, so I just wanted to see if you could clarify a little bit what kind of things you couldn't get past with Pascal and his relationship with the team.
Yeah, no, I don't want to get into our discussions. You know, I just, to me, you know, the bottom line was we're a result-oriented business, and the decision was made that I just felt that we needed to go in another direction, and you know, the conversation Pascal and I had, I think, should remain between the two of us.
All right.
Next, we'll go to Dave Metzel. Go ahead, Metzi.
Hey, Don, checking in from way up north in the woods in your home state here. It's beautiful up here right now. I want to ask you about injuries. They are a part of the game, obviously, but such a glaring stat when it comes to the Columbus Blue Jackets in the last 2 years. Is there anything that you can do at this time of year to address that situation as you head into a season? You obviously don't want to have those kind of numbers again.
No, I've actually I have a list that was sent to me about all our injuries the last 2 or 3 years because you're looking for some kind of pattern or something. And we had a lot of freak injuries, you know, the Fantilli laceration, you know, a lot of things that just you can't prepare for and train for. But it's something that we have talked about, and you know, going forward, I think the big part right now, you know, with players is, you know, their training cycle during the summertime, and we put a lot of resources into that this summer. We have our trainers and strength coach and traveling around, meeting with all the players and meeting with who they're training with. So I think there's been a big step already taken to try to get the players to prepare for the season. And you know, we're only in June right now, but the reports that we were getting back from that everybody's really doing well. Health shouldn't be an issue with anybody at this point, and you know, we want to just monitor what they're doing with their trainers, and by the time they get here, we'll be ready to roll. So we're aware of it, and but I think it all comes down to preparation during the summertime.
And the other question I have for you, I know that the fans aren't going to make any decisions for you on contracts or coaches or that type of thing, but you have met with some fans. How valuable has that been for you, just in understanding the culture here and what their expectations are, and how much of an important piece they are for you?
No, I mean, hey, without them, we don't have a business, right? So the fans are critical for our business. I'm a big believer of you have to connect with your fans, and I've always been that way for my whole career, both as a player, manager, and everything. So it's been outstanding. I've been to went to one watch party, a couple season ticket holder events here at the building, and just being around town. People have been very, very, very friendly. Some have given me some good thoughts, for sure. The one thing that everybody has picked up on is if I'm trying to get rid of the cannon, and I keep saying, I love the cannon now. I hated the cannon, but I love the cannon now. So, you know, we've had some fun. It's been fun being in the community for sure for the last couple weeks.
Great. All right. That's it.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Look forward to seeing you down the road.